Hi, guys. Welcome to Chakra Sessions. I am your host, Polly Jo Labbe, here as part of Star Nation's radio network, broadcasting to you live through Be Live TV. Welcome, everyone. We're going to have a beautiful evening this evening, and I'm very excited to have that working for us. So welcome. And I see Angelica, you are already here, dear soul. I'm so glad you are here as well. It's always a lovely evening when we have people join us and gather together. So this evening's show is all about grounding with multiple dimensions. Sounds a little tricky, I'm sure, because grounding in this dimension is hard enough sometimes. But basically, what my team has been showing me is that people have been feeling more ungrounded and a little more wobbly, as it were, as we head into 2020. And so maybe we need some new grounding techniques to help us, because some of the old ones maybe aren't working so good right now. And that's because the earth plane is transitioning and we're evolving. And as part of that, well, sometimes we get a little out of sync with our physical body and maybe even with the planet. So this should be fun this evening. Hi, Christine. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us. This is a new time and format for me. I used to be on at Tuesday afternoons, but Spirit was calling for me to move into a better time frame for myself and for the family. So this looks like it's going to be it. So you guys can help get the word out for people who aren't used to it yet by liking and sharing this post, whether you share it to your Facebook group or onto your page, or just send it through Messenger to somebody who might be interested. That would be fantastic. It helps us spread the spirit, spread the healing, and get it out there. So welcome, Andrew. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. My energy is moving to Maine soon, so I'll be in your neck of the woods, and then we'll have to get together because that will be super fun. And Cindy Lynn, good evening. I hope you are feeling better. And Robert saying, the earth plane gave me an upgrade to business class. Well, isn't it nice to have a little more leg room? You know, that's where I'm at too. Hi, Judy. Nice to see you. I hope we'll connect more in person at some point for some healing work or some just general coaching. That would be really fun. And of course, Rob has to put in the "What'd you know, Polly Jo," because that's how he gets me smiling every time, because that is perfect. Hi, Lynn. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Nice to see your smiling face. So the really neat thing about all the shifting that's going on is that, you know, it's a little bit more difficult to stay grounded for a lot of people. I have a number of people who are, you know, healers and practitioners, and they're like, I'm having trouble staying grounded. And it surprises us when it happens because, you know, we've gotten used to, you know, doing it the same old way, and it's worked for a long time. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work. So what do you do then? And some of it is about our focus and our attention. And some of it is about creating grounding cords in maybe a different way than you've been doing. You know, how is that? So Cindy Lynn saying a tiny bit. She's hoping her fever has finally broken. Yes. I'm really glad I helped you with your mind shift. That's fantastic. Dinah, good evening. Welcome to the show. All right. We're going to have some fun doing the healing, Judy, and that will be perfect to end out our day when we get to that. So how do we know that we're ungrounded? What are some of the symptoms that we may have? You know, so the ones that I've been encountering with my clients and my students is that people are having difficulty focusing on the task at hand. There are other people who are having more anxiety, and anxiety, yes, is being a little bit ungrounded. Another thing that I've been seeing is that people are forgetful when they haven't been, or they're having trouble being organized. And I know that last one sounds strange about being ungrounded, but I'll explain in a little bit. So let's start with the obvious. When you're having trouble focusing, paying attention, you're just really in this place where you're like, what was I doing? Yes, we have some natural times where that happens. But if it's happening more frequently, then you may be having difficulty grounding. So the good original way to do that is like to take a deep breath and to feel a grounding cord going out from your energy centers, maybe from your root chakra, most people do, or from the tailbone, and having it anchored down in the earth. Well, if you're doing that and that's not working, then maybe your energy is not connected to your root chakra at the moment. And I've been seeing that a lot. So for people who maybe smoke cigarettes or marijuana, and that includes vaping, you may already be a little bit out of your root chakra. Or people who, if you have a drink of alcohol, it can pull you out of your body anyways. And all of those things can lead to difficulty focusing. But if it's something that you do on a regular basis, then your body's not used to being in that root chakra. So when you go to ground with the root chakra, you're not even there. So that is wreaking some havoc for people. So my team has been showing me to use your heart chakra as the grounding tool. The heart holds a higher frequency, a higher vibration, because it is the bridge between our survival body and our higher self. So we're actually asking our higher self to ground us, which makes a lot of sense because our higher self has the ability to be in more than one dimension at a time. So kind of like wherever we might be hanging out, our higher self can go, oh, you want me to ground? Sure, I'll do that. So my team has been having me invite people to use your heart chakra to be the grounding cord. And I take the extra precaution of asking the cord to go from the heart chakra through the third chakra at our solar plexus, through the second chakra below the belly button, and through the root chakra by our tailbone, and then into the ground. So that way, all of our survival chakras are grounded as well as our heart. And that seems to help a lot of people to stay in their body. All right, Rob's heading out early, but he's going to check in the archives. See you soon. I know you're probably maybe helping with the show that's coming up later at 8, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So also what happens when we use that, one of the other things that can make it difficult is what I said before was anxiety. And anxiety is really when our energy is displaced a little bit into the future. We are concerned about what might be, and our energy is in all of those possibilities rather than right here, right now in this moment. And that doesn't really work well for us. It makes it very difficult for us to concentrate and hard to focus because we're revved up in this anxious place. And we all know how that can look and feel and be in the moment. So that happens a lot for people who have had trauma as well. So I see this scenario of ungroundedness in this particular way for people who have post-traumatic stress or who've just gone through a serious loss, because that can really unsettle our current energy in our reality of the now. And so when we have a big loss, we start going into the past. So the same thing happens about if our energy is in the past, we're reminiscing about what has been or what what was, and we're not focused where we are now, then again, we're not here. So then the grounding, a regular grounding technique might not work so well. So let's see. I saw a couple more people pop in. So hi, Joanne. Welcome, welcome. And hi, Carol. Woohoo! My godmother. Yay! And your good friend Judy is here. So nice to have you. So when we're not in the moment, if we're, like I said, if we're worried about the future, or we're in a space of anxiety, we're not focused, we're not here. So again, energetically, it's as if we're in a different time and space. So if we're using our higher chakras from the heart up to start to ground us, then it pulls our energy back into the present moment and allows us to be more here, more now, which is really, really, really helpful. Hi, Deborah. Welcome. Glad to have you here on Chakra Sessions. It's always great to see you guys. So as we're trying to ground in these multi-dimensions, I have people who say, well, I'm not multi-dimensional. I'm in the third dimension. And you may be, but the planet might not be. The planet may be shifting and evolving into the fourth dimension. And when we have spikes of energy and things that are going on, we do these like waves of where we're located. So it doesn't always work, just creating the grounding cord. Now, one of the things that works really well across the board is when you connect with nature. Because if we go out and we sit with our back to a tree, or we rub our feet in the grass, we're connecting with where the earth is right now. And when we're in sync with that, we feel in our body, we feel grounded, we feel safe. And so that is a technique that works all the time. Now, if you're somewhere at the moment where there is snow and it's cold, then that might not be the first thing you choose. I'm not about to go out barefoot at the moment at the temperature we're having. It just doesn't seem like it's a great idea. But I can still use earth and sand to ground. So I actually have a container. I should have brought it up. I didn't think about it. I have a container of sand. And I have it in like a little Pyrex dish. And that is from the ocean where I love to go. And when I feel the need to do extra grounding, I put my hands in it and I just move my hands around in the sand. And it vibrates with the same frequency as the earth plane, and it reconnects me, calms me down. It's actually something that it's why sandboxes appeal to kids, because they're very grounding, and they really allow us to be in the moment. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't use those outside, because the animals are like, litter box. But that is really helpful. And Judy's saying that she loves going for a walk in warmer weather. Absolutely. Going for a walk, just really breathing in the air, using our physical body, moving. So that's fantastic. And being in Michigan, that can be a great thing. So, and I'm a big ocean person. So, if I can get out, even if it's cold, I tend to get out in the ocean air and just let that salt water wash over me, and I ground very quickly in that space. But what I'm talking about are those times when all of a sudden you feel this energy coming up and you're not grounded. Like panic does not come in when you're grounded and when you're in the present moment. It's why when somebody's having a panic attack, you have them visually clue into what's in the room. Have them name 5 green things in the room or 4 blue things, so that their mind is focused on the present moment and they're not stretched into the future. So Martina saying, hi, me too. I'm assuming that going for a walk is what you mean for me too, because that works for me too. But as we are here, one of the other things that we can think about is what we're eating, what we're putting in our body. So things that are from the earth, it's sort of no surprise that those can be more grounding for us. But things that have a lot of mineral content are extremely good at bringing our body into balance. So I often recommend root vegetables because they grow under the ground. So our potatoes, our onions, our carrots, beets, those things, they really have a lot of nutrient, but they have this connection to having been beneath the earth, and they remind us how to do that. And we don't really eat grass these days, but we do eat some of the darker vegetables, like the green leafy vegetables. Kale's getting a good rep right now, and spinach and things like that. They have a lot of iron in them as well, and that will really ground your energy. For some people who are able to do meat, sometimes the bigger animals, if you have a very small portion of that, if they eat grass, that can be very grounding. The animals that eat grain are not so grounding. Just they have a higher water content, so they help with our water energy, but not with our grounding energy. But as I said, we can get ourselves out of sync really easily. And in the sort of multidimensional energy, some of the healers out there, you may experience this energy that at the school we talk about as sliding. And sliding happens when you sort of lose time, you lose sense of time, and something goes really fast or it goes really slow, and there is a quality where you're almost not connected to your, like I'm losing it right now, your ability to talk because you're in an energetic realm where words aren't how communication is done. Symbols is how communications is done. So when you feel that hesitation of the words aren't coming quickly, and that time seems to be a little foggy, for those of you who are seers, you may notice kind of either things will be really crisp and clearer than normal, like colors will look brighter and more vibrant, or you may have the reverse. You may have this like foggy look that goes around you, kind of like if you stared at one spot too long, how things can kind of shift. That is another way that we can kind of move our energy dimensionally in an unaware place. Just going to grab a quick drink. Lots of water needed right now. So April, hi, welcome. And Cindy Lynn saying right here. Yep. It's really difficult sometimes to maintain our focus. And the other thing that is surprisingly grounding is when we list things that we are grateful for. So in the things that we're grateful for, there's a lot of talk about forgiveness. There's a lot of talk about gratitude. All of those things align us with our heart energy. And as I said before, our heart is our bridge to our higher self. And so when we are concentrating on our heart energy and we're connecting to that, that drops us into our breath, and it drops us into the present moment. So one of the practices is that as soon as things are trying to make you be anxious, for example, I even just think of anytime a negative thought wants to come in, I stop right in that moment and I start listing things that I'm grateful for, because that draws my attention back to my heart, and it allows that negative energy to kind of dissolve away. And, even when we're doing our best to be positive people, there's a lot of negativity out in the world around us, in the news, on our phones, and just people gossiping. It's very easy to have negativity bang into us. But do we suck it in like a sponge, like many of us empaths do? And if you do, then you want to ground and release. But if not, you want to make sure that if it hits you and it startles you, then to get your focus back to your heart, just start listing things you're grateful for. So a very lovely woman that I know, who teaches a lot about goddess energy, the divine feminine, which also connects deeply with our heart. She has an assignment that she gives to people, which is to write 100 things that you're grateful for in a month. I think even a week would be great. Like the sooner, the faster, the better. But a month seems doable, right? That's 3 things a day or 4 things a day. And that's quite obtainable. But that is shifting our focus to what's right with our lives and away from what's wrong. Because when we're focused on the negativity, again, we get ungrounded because we start making assumptions based on our past, or we're trying to guess what might happen. And then next thing we know, our energy is once again out of sync with this time, with this place. And in the decade of 2020, my team's been very clear that we are meant to shift our energy and our vibration to clear thinking, clear perception. So how do we clear away the fog that has us spacing out, that has us plastered to our phone, so that phones are more important than personal contact? Well, we need to be in the present moment. We need to be in a place where we're grounded. And then one of the other things that's big, the good old water, that good old H2O. And it's so interesting when I talk to clients, and water's a big one. It is one of my hardest things. You can ask Neshi when you talk to her. Is one of the hardest things for me to negotiate. Because if it's not really, really cold, I have a hard time drinking it. I'm getting better at it, but it wasn't the first thing that I grabbed when I was a teenager, right? We grabbed things that had sugar in them. We grabbed things that had caffeine in them because that's what everybody else was doing. And caffeine and sugar can also unground us. Who knew? Well, some of you, I'm sure. But, another thing about that is caffeine revs up our energy. It takes us out of the present moment. Sugar does the same thing. So does carbohydrates, so our breads, our pastas, not the natural ones, like potatoes or that, those seem to not pull you out of the present moment. But some of the other ones, because they're like a false sugar, our body revs up, and in the revving up, if we're not super grounded, off we go. Just like when you have a drink, it takes you slightly out of the present moment. That's why you feel happier, because you're not thinking. And that's because you're not in the moment, which, you guys understand that. So drinking water is really key. And the difficult thing about drinking water is that to just stay hydrated, which means the bare minimum of water that you should be drinking is half of your body weight in ounces. Yeah, that's a lot. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you should be drinking 50 ounces of water a day. And so sometimes people freak out about that. And the way my team has been explaining it to me is, imagine, we're supposed to be 80% water. And so when we're drinking the water, we are drinking in life force energy. So when I'm feeling depleted, what do I want? I want my life force energy to be expanded. And that will happen when I drink more water. And that is the way that it works better. So Judy is saying, me too, I have a super hard time with water. She puts an orange slice in it. Yes, anything citrus actually helps the liver work a little bit better. So orange, lemon, lime. And so I today I'm using I'm not using a glass bottle. But when I am using a glass or a metal bottle, then I will put essential oils. I'll use the drops of lemon because it's very concentrated. But wild oranges, I enjoy better because it's got a different flavor to it. So Cindy Lynn is like, each time you lift your bottle, I'm taking a sip. Okay, I'll take the challenge. That's for you, Cindy Lynn. So that if we think about it, so Carol said for me, that would be over a gallon a day, right? And are we even close to that? I know people who are like, oh, I drink a ton of water. And I'm like, well, what's a ton of water? And they'll say, like 2 of those water bottles a day, which is like 32 ounces maybe. Or maybe even 3, they'll get to 48 ounces. And it's like, well, are you over 100 pounds? Then that's not enough water. So it's a difficult thing for us to get to, but use that as a benchmark. And I know people are afraid to drink water because it's going to make them pee. But one of the things that my team has been really clear with me about is that that when you get to the point where you're at your saturation point where you have enough water, then the peeing slows down because you're not needing to release the toxins. When we're dehydrated, those toxins in our liver, in our pancreas, in our intestines, they get more crystallized. So they're harder for us to move. And so when we have more water, it just flushes rapidly. So once our system is flushed and clean, then we don't need as much to flush as to just keep ourselves at a basic pace. So yeah, I'm trying to do the alarm clock thing where I drink so much every 2 hours. That seems to be helping a little bit. But if somebody has some great ideas about helping up the water intake, I'm sure there's many of us who would be open to listening to that. But I did notice when I was sick that all I did was do fluids. I don't know about you, Cindy Lynn, but that's all I wanted. That's all I did. And I did a lot of them. And even with that, the amount of gunk that I was coughing and blowing my nose with, it was still thicker than I would have thought, considering how much liquid I was drinking. Just as a side note. So in the grounding with multiple dimensions, it's really key to use our heart as our guide. And when we use our heart, that can help us anchor our energy in the present moment. My team has also been having me ground not just to the earth, but also to the center of the universe. So it's basically creating our cord of connection that we already have to the earth below us and to the divine above us, because we're on this sort of energetic string and we kind of slide up and down that string. And so when we remind ourselves to connect to both energies and then expand the cord so it's wider, it allows us to feel more in our body, more in sync. And that just helps a lot. Lynn's saying she does good at work with water, but not so much at home. I know. And I know some people who like drink all of their water at work and then don't drink when they get home. And then the body doesn't know what you're doing because, we're at home in bed for, hopefully 8 hours. And then you're usually, have an hour or so or two before you go to work and maybe a couple hours before you go to sleep. So half of our day we're at home, even if we're asleep. So if we're not drinking at home, we've dehydrated ourselves for 12 hours. So I'm not sure. It's the pace yourself kind of thing. And I now keep water by my bed, which my mom has always done. She's been a good water drinker or a better water drinker than I have been. But I just started doing that recently, especially when I was sick because, I was noticing when I was dry and calling in the energy of the humidifier too. So, because that seems to be helping with my water element. And if our water element is out of balance, then again, the earth element below it in the root chakra, it gets as dried up as the water. So that again will unground us. We get very ungrounded when we have a lot of emotional energy going on because that takes us sort of on a water roller coaster. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no good, there's no bad around that. But it's the reminder of, are the emotions now, or do they have a little bit of influence from events from our past? And when our emotions are being influenced by the past, again, we might not be in the present moment and it's harder to get grounded. So Carol's saying, can we go back to the sand a minute? Swishing one's hand in sand can help to ground. So 2 cups from the beach is okay. Yeah, it's, the square, this size, this size Pyrex. I don't know how to, and then it's like, I do about this much. It may be a little more than 2, but I would assume 2 would probably be okay. And yeah, you put your hands in so that the palm and all your fingertips are connected. And if you just think about the reflexology, right? And how we have everything in our hands that we have in our feet. We can do that in sand. We can do that in dirt. And, some people even get really grounded when they're like making bread because you're using your hands to make and mush and knead the bread. All of those things will be activating the reflexology points on the bottom of your hand. So when you're using the earth in that way, it can help. So I actually have sand, and I do have a few little like crystals in there as well, so that it helps like itty bitty, not big ones where it would hurt your hand. There's like itty bitty ones. So it's a coarse texture. And that helps me to get back to the moment. Because the exact same things in our feet that ground us, we have in our hands. And believe it or not, when we use our hands to ground, that's grounding from our heart because it's connected energetically to the heart as it rolls down our arm and into the palm. So I hope that helps. So Judy, hi Sandy, welcome to the show. Let me just quickly answer Carol first. Pyrex, not plastic. Yeah. Heat it in a microwave a little. No, I haven't had to heat it in a microwave. Yeah, I use the glass because it's closer to a natural element. My team has been weaning me away from plastic recently. But I don't know that your team would necessarily be like, no, you can't use plastic. I mean, use what you have. But the closer it is to the earth elements, the stronger the vibration. So I'm sure a true metal pan would work as well. Wood would be fantastic if you had like a little wooden tray. You could put it on a wood tray and use that as well. Judy's saying, going through a lot of emotional. My family is going through my sister thing. Yep. Rough road, but learning. Oh, yeah, dear. I'll tell you. 2020 is so much about being in the present moment and really shifting our perception, and all the things that are not working are just literally here right in front of our face for us to fix. Our relationships, our beliefs, our thoughts, our patterns, they're all just right in front of us right now. And as difficult as that is, I see them as opportunities. You know, every difficult thing that wants to surface right now for me, I'm just focusing on that it's bringing something more positive to me. And I'm going at it hardcore, I guess you would say, because that is really a difficult space. And Carol has a wooden bowl. Good. Do that with your stuff. And Andrew's saying 18-ounce glass an hour for the 16 hours most of us are awake would give you a gallon. Easier said than done, right? I mean, that for some of us, that feels like we'd be constantly drinking, right? But hey, one 8-ounce glass, not even 18 ounce, 1 8-ounce glass. So 8 ounces an hour, or 16 ounces every 2 hours. That's the way to get there. And, you know, some of you can have like a water bottle like this. I don't know if it'll show up, but it's not going to show up very well. So mine has the ounces on it. So all the way full, it's 32 ounces. So if I do this, you know, if I keep doing this, then I will get there. So yeah, it can be a difficult thing, but isn't it a goal worth trying? Because that's something, you know, we can't control our environment, but we can control how much we drink. And so I find that the strategies that put my clients back in a place where they feel like they have control over their life rather than their life is controlling them, it's really something. So here we go. My team is saying time to do the grounding meditation, because we want to leave a little space at the end to tell you what's coming up at Star Nations. So let's get some grounding on. Let's see if we can get some clarity and get ourselves really focused into the present moment. So we're going to take a couple of deep breaths. Let's do one more. Good. And so right now we're going to invite our heart to begin to ground its energy. So just first notice your heart as you're breathing. And imagine it has this cord that runs through it that heads down to the earth. So inviting the heart to connect to the third chakra below us in the solar plexus. Feeling the two working together. Feeling the connection. Now inviting that cord of connection to go from the third chakra to the second, right below the belly button. And feeling the heart and the solar plexus and the belly all connected. And then going from our second chakra down to our root, from below the belly button to around the tailbone, feeling that cord of connection so that our heart, our solar plexus, our sacral, and our root chakras are all connected, working together. And then invite that cord to go down each leg. And imagine them coming out the bottom of your feet, right in the arch, and going through the floor of the room you're in, through the foundation, through the layers of rock and earth beneath us, traveling miles and miles past ancient civilizations, dinosaur bones, and more, to the very molten lava center of the earth, the heartbeat of the divine feminine. And inviting that cord to anchor itself. So maybe it will dig deep within the earth. Maybe it will wrap around something solid like a giant crystal. Maybe it'll wrap around the grandmother Earth's heart. And now noticing that cord and how wide it is, how thick it is. And we're going to gently ask that cord to expand to the size of a cylinder. And you get to determine what size that cylinder is. But you might notice it expanding near your heart, through your belly, through your body first. And then as it goes all the way down to the earth, all the way to the center. And it's creating a giant channel of energy to flow to you and through you from the divine feminine. And we're going to take a minute to allow the divine feminine energy, the original creation energy, to flow up to us and through us to gather into our heart space. Surrounding and protecting our inner child with love and light.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And now we're going to create a second cord of connection. But before we do that, just take a moment to feel how grounded, how centered you are right this minute. Put that memory into your muscles, into your tissues.
Good.
And now we're going to create a longer cord of connection going from our heart up to the divine, up to the center of creation. And that will go from our heart up to our throat, feeling the connection of the two energies working together. And then from the throat into the third eye, in the center of the forehead. Feeling the connection between the heart and the throat and the third eye working together. And then from the third eye up to the crown, at the top of the head. And then up to the divine, all the way to the very center of the universe, where our soul was first perceived, created, birthed. And we're going to invite that cord of connection to expand to the size of a cylinder, allowing more energy to flow to our heart, to our throat, to our third eye and our intuition, and to our crown. And we're going to invite the divine masculine energy to flow down through us and to us, to gather in our heart space with the divine feminine, surrounding and protecting our inner child with infinite love and infinite light. And allowing that love energy of the divine feminine and masculine together with your inner child, the Holy Trinity within, to radiate outward through all the layers of your aura in each and every vibration, frequency, and dimension. Clearing our physical, our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual realms. As well as any karmic debt we may be carrying. And now take a moment to notice your energy now as you are connected above and below. And allow your body to hold this as a memory in your body, in your tissues. Notice how centered you are, how present you are in the moment. And now you can gently begin to dissolve your meditation. And just feel where your energy is at this moment. This is when we're grounded in time and space, in multiple frequencies. And notice how calm the energy is inside you and around you. And you can wiggle your toes and your hands or stretch, yawn, whatever you need to. I'm going to challenge Cindy Lynn to have another sip of our life force energy, right? Oh my goodness, Neshi's in the house. Hi, Neshi. Glad to have you sneaking in here. Thanks for being here. So in this place, we are able to just sort of be present. Angelica, you said it so nicely. Peaceful, softer, lighter, right? And so sometimes people have this sensation that grounding is heavy, that grounding is solid. It can be, but it's really all about just being fully present. When we're fully present, then the other stuff doesn't knock us for a loop. It doesn't waver. It allows us space to think more clearly, to choose based on what our soul wants and our heart needs. And so being in that grounded place is really important. So noticing this place, your energy body now knows what that feels like, and you can choose to go there in meditation. You can simply invite your energy to go back to this sensation, this feeling. And it's not putting you backward in time. It's reconnecting you with your own energy in this frequency. So that can be fantastic as well. And Violet is saying that this feels amazing. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. For me, it's, yeah, this is how I like to be, dear. If that makes sense. This is my go-to place. So having moved to Thursday nights at 7:00, there's this cool thing that happens at Star Nations is that some weeks we actually have a show at 8:00 right afterwards. So I'm making space so that people can do both. Tonight's show is Living in Two Worlds. It's with Ortrun and Carl Franklin. I've always got to make sure I get their last name right. And Neshi Lokatz. We all know Neshi. And it's tonight at 8:00. And the Living in Two Worlds is really about being in the physical plane, how to be here, but also to hold our spirituality. Because we walk with both legs. Our one leg holds our spiritual energy, our spiritual path, and the other holds our physical. So we don't want to be limping through life. We want to be walking in a balanced, energetic way. And their show tonight is going to help with that. So you can go over to the main fan page for Star Nations and check that out. But I also want to let you guys know, if you haven't heard, there are 4 of us Star Nations hosts who've teamed up to do some really cool, deep work on manifesting, because it's been the topic lately of how people create what they want in their life rather than reacting to the life that they seem to be given at any moment. So this deep dive into manifesting starts with our online classes. We have a bundled group of 4 classes that feature Maureen Mann from Angel Therapy, Ed Langston, who does all of the law of attraction work, myself, and Neshi. And we're each doing a class for about an hour and a half that will help you with manifesting not only in this 3rd dimension, but beyond. And my focus for my class is about how to manifest in the multidimensional plane, as well as with our inner child. Because believe it or not, the inner child has the magic wand to get us there. So if we remember how to connect to our child and the magic, we can manifest more rapidly when we are using more than one frequency and vibration to attract what we want to create. So Neshi is sharing, here's the website for my services and my products at trinityhealingsanctuaries.com. Some of you know I channel essential oil remedies, recipes to help with what's going on for you in a particular moment. And for those of you who've been having difficulty with the staying grounded, there is a beautiful grounding blend that was recently upgraded so that it works in more than one dimension. It's fantastic. You can even use it as a smelling salt because it will help drop the body back in rapidly. And there's also a blend called the Ascension Blend that is helping people who are having some symptoms of sliding, as we were talking about before. So if you're having difficulty with either of those things, check it out at trinityhealingsanctuaries.com, or you can always message me right here through Chakra Sessions, and I'll be happy to help you out. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to get a drink, maybe use the restroom, and then join me over at Living Two Worlds with Carl, Ortrun, and Neshi. And let's see what Star Nations has to offer us for the rest of the evening. With that, guys, bye and have a great, fantastic night.